You know nothing about GTA San Andreas. About 18% of what I'm saying. At least we like this game not because it's a masterpiece one in our view, just because we both played it when we were kids, like a part of our nostalgia. Even grass is greener in childhood, because we have tried everything for the first time and evokes wild emotions. We don't understand most of the rest engines and therefore don't appreciate the skills of who's created this game. We don't see the references. We don't see any historical concepts. We don't see that Rockstar hired real-life ghetto gangsters to voice the characters and that these gangsters rewrote some of their lines to suit themselves, because that's not how they speak on the streets. We don't know that Carl Johnson, voice actor, actually did near 50-20 takes on each line, just in case Carl Johnson was fat or thin, because fat and thin people have different voices, and that's what the video is about. Let's start from the beginning. It's clear that Los-Santos is Los Angeles, San Fierro is San Francisco, and Las Vegas it's Las Venturas. This triangle is where the events take place. Where did the Latino and black gangs come from? Historically, the English and by at all white men lived in the northern and southern states. In the south, for example, there were a few French colonies, like in the state of Louisiana. The word state itself means state where we, two-legs Homo sapiens, live at God's rules, not rules some two-leg made it for us so we would pay taxes, or some rules of two legs that say you can't beat your children at birth. The Spanish lived alongside local Native Americans. The state of California itself, New Mexico, and a couple more, I can't remember for now, were taken from Mexico by the United States during the military conflicts. The West was settled slowly and deliberately. The West was settled slowly. To put it simply, the United States' goal at the time was to populate the western coast as quickly as possible, since the Russian Empire, for example, has begun settling Alaska. Let's see, the Russian Empire could pose a threat from right next door, and the United States, after the revolution and its victory over Mexico, was the most powerful in the region and did not want to lose this status. To populate the Western territories, a marketing ploy was launched. Slavery, weapons, tax abolition were permitted, and you can take as much land and wife as you can, for time. Just take your claim. And to encourage more people to come west, they included the cliché about gold deposits, first in California, then in Alaska. This transfer took place in bars, and drunk patrons would come in, buy drinks, and then blather on about gold they'd found in Alaska or California, and that it was supposedly plentiful. Well, this was just drunken idiots telling the tale. In reality, there was decoys for the American Secret Services all the time. Certainly, they couldn't drag men west by force. Why force them when you can convince them, right? Right. White men settled California. They brought black slaves with them. Mexicans were also present here. It's called that Mexican, mean descendants of the Spanish and local Indians. The Mexicans, in the case, have their own form of religion. Yes, they're Christian, maybe, but they also worship the deity of death in the pagan way, a relic of Native American times, just as in the CIS. They celebrated Passover, and a Passover while fasting is required. They eat Eastern cakes and do eggs, colored eggs, a relic of Slavic beliefs, or the word Russian, for example, from other way of Earth. It's a relic from Rus tribe, so called because of their blonde hair. There were Varangians from the north who were invited, and maybe themselves most likely imposed upon themselves to sail and rule the Slavic tribe and protect them from attacks from their neighborhoods. And ultimately, they become the local bosses. One of the famous rulers is Rurik of Friesland. The Rurik dynasty descended from him. So there we have, because three different people, three different tribes: blacks from Africa, Mexican from South America, and white person from Europe. And the gold whites are descendants, the Anglo-Saxons, French, Germans, basically everyone who came to America. This is where three groups of gangs organized: white gangs, Latino gangs, black gangs. White gangs are known from Europe. In this story, for example, this could be Anglo-Saxon who became American and promote all sorts of white pride worldwide. The whites are super race or Latino Americans, because they are all supposedly from Europe. The Latino gangs were, well, it's all cream. They have their own beliefs and they are descendants of the Spanish and Native Americans and black people. They lived separately from each other, of course, because they were enslaved, and so-called anti-racism was delivered to America and Europe 2 decades ago. In the context of Los-Santos, gangs exist to purpose of protecting their own interests from outsiders' gangs. For example, Latinos protect themselves and their peers from attacks by their neighbors, blacks and whites. Black gangs were formed for this purpose. They organized to protect their fellows, black persons, from attack by, say, whites or Latinos. These self-defense units later become criminalized and constantly replaced one another. For example, some black gangs become so well organized and advanced so far that they become wealthy burghers and moved out of the ghettos. They were replaced by new black gangs who also wanted the good life and began selling drugs. The conflict in Grove Street families is that Sweet and Carl Johnson, by the game, support the idea that gang of Grove Street families exist only for protect black people from other gangs, not to sell them drugs for money. The name itself, Grove Street Families, means a union of families for self-defense. Gangs were originally created for self-defense from others. In those days, it was easier to turn a fellow who one with your religion, who spoke your language, and ask him help, than other person from other religion, other people who speak another language. This typically behavior among Homo sapiens. The most active and cunning became police officers, meaning gangsters, in this time. The police were criminalized those days. Even today, police officers sometimes plant drugs, even with body cameras, and even when someone camera him. What we can say about these days, where no one any camera and no one can double check you. The story with Epstein shows that if a fish rots from the head down and it's been rotting for a long time, in decades, why wouldn't the rest of the fish rot, say not today but in 19th? This was psychologically accurately depicted in the game. The Dodger arrives into Los-Santos from Liberty City. Liberty City is a version of New York City in GTA San Andreas. The Legacy Dodger works for a living and had pilfered a whole worth of cash. It was robbed of him by thugs in uniform. You know what you thugged and robbed before someone robbed you. The Dodger likely had conflicts with Tempe as he was a teenager, I suppose, because Sidoji went to New York while Tempe joined the police. Otherwise, how would he know Tempe's name? There is essentially how it's depicted in the game. There is essentially how it's depicted in the game. We are shown the moral degradation of Grove Street families and constantly the police. Tempe is a ghetto native who also wants the good life, sweet pussies. Then he joined the police to satisfy his insecurities, to oppress others. They planted drugs on him, and that's it. You've already been taken by the collar and can be manipulated as they please. To put this in perspective, many police departments are criminalized, as I said before. For example, in all police stations, there is place for total without cameras or wiretaps. Even now, even such cameras have been installed and everyone doesn't wear them. It's very common for cops to still somehow plant drugs in car. There are similar cases in US, Russia, Ukraine, and even in France and Germany, I suppose, even in Britain, but I don't saw widows in these countries because I have only 24 hours in a day. I've often interacted with Ukraine cops myself, for example, and from my experience, I can graduate that those who spend a long time there are all full of insecurities and continue to harbor them. Ritualistic humiliation and insults are commonplace here. Some don't shy away from torture. It's the same as everyone else's police departments. So, at the first is the usual narrative of Carl Johnson's life. His mother dead because of drive-by ballot shootout. Timpani blackmails Carl and uses him for his own ends. He says, "You will play the role I tell you. Otherwise, we will pin the murder of our colleague in the dangerous business on you." As the story progresses, we are introduced to Ryder and Big Smoke. And of course, Carl's brother, a brother nicknamed Sweet. Ryder can be translated as a runner with a drug habit. Big Smoke has been translated as because of his smoking cigarettes much, since he smoked a lot of cigarettes. Sweet was most likely called that because of his dedication to sweets, I suppose. When he got fat, I think that's where his nickname came from. Because I don't think so the gangster would call his colleagues in dangerous business as Sweetie, like a kind of gay nickname. I think it could be not real. Carl meets Ryder at his house, Bull Street, Family Street, but Ryder don't exactly happy about Carl's return. After a brief conversation, Ryder tells Carl that the owner of nearly pizzeria continues to paint over the Bull Street family's graffiti, and Ryder plans to teach him a lesson short robbery. Ryder isn't happy with Carl's return because of reason. The assassination attempt of Sweet failed, since Ryder and Big Smoke defected to the Las Vegas and Timpani drug dealers, which we learned about it in the future. It's entirely possible that an assassination attempt was carried out of his mother's funeral. We don't know what was going on behind the scenes. Most likely, Big Smoke continued to pretend to be a good guy who's on Grove Street side, and Ryder, while not expressing his thoughts, snapped at CJ for interfering with their plan to make money. Sweet, Big Smoke and Ryder are discussing the drug trade in the area, Grove Street families. They need to clean the area. They're trying to get Big B, who's become a slave of his dealer, to no avail, so they clear the rear. Ryder is basically doing without much interest, just for show. After all, if he gets involved, they will be in conflict, and it might come out of his defector. Sweet and Candle are arguing about Kendall's relationship with so-called Cesare Valpando, a Mexican bandito gangsterito, leader of the various Los Aztecas gang. There is also arguing about Kendall's dressing like a whore. Well, there is other times today. Nowadays, the more slutty you look, the lower you go straight. It's just a strange way of doing things, you know. Carl somehow strikes up a friendship with Cesare Valpando, the leader of various Los Aztecas. Judging by the names, they are called the Aztecs warriors. It's so special about international relationships, you ask me. What's so special about black guys fucking Latinos or Negros fucking whites or another way? Well, and I see you. How about you, Thee? Some your sister will date with some kind bandito gangsterito who's selling drugs, you know? And by the way, the attitude between blacks, Latino and white gangs are similar to ours towards the worst example of gypsies, for example, in Europe. Now imagine your sister talking I'm in love with some gypsy who's selling drugs. Make tattoo that he outlaw. Another. That's why Sweet asked Carl to investigate as a cold-headed person and find out if Kendall will be safe with his Cesare Panda or not. Carl discovers that Cesare treats his sister well and everything is fine. Salad even once asked Sidoji to race. Salad Cesare even invited Sidoji to race at once. Carl somehow strikes up a friendship with Cesare Panda, the leader of various Los Aztecas. Judging by the names they are called the Aztec warriors. It's so special about international relationships, you ask me. What's so special about black guys fucking Latinos or Negros fucking whites or another way? Well, and I see you. How about you, Thee? Some your sister will date with some kind bandito gangsterito who's selling drugs, you know? Then the gang goes to the Emmett's place on Civil Family Street and grabs some food and shoots some ballers who made a drive-by before. Next they rescue Sweet from the Thriller Boulevard family's gang. There is all the missions where Sweet is involved. Note that alongside Sweet Rider and Big Smoke are working together to clear the area of drug dealers. But lately, in the mission, they will use car for their own purpose, for their own dark deeds. What happened during the mission? Big Smoke and Ryder use car to obtain weapons, but at the same time they are trying to prevent the Vegas from rearming. For example, Ryder's mission is to steal weapons from Vietnam military with any code and Ryder's instructions to weapons from Vegas on the train. Basically, the company prevents the Vegas from heavily arming themselves using the Grove Street. There isn't surprising. From Timpani perspective, black gangsters, Latino gangsters don't matter at all. They're all outsiders from my Timpani view, and you can do business with them as long as the monkey keeps making money for you. But if anything goes wrong, they are gone. With your own hands or other someone's hands, no matter. No matter. No matter. That's how black Negros says. Now that the rider cooks crack or whatever he's cooking and Sidoji doesn't seem to have any questions. We're fighting with drug dealers and you making drugs. What wrong with it? Come on. We're against drugs and you cooking it. But Tampani doesn't take Ryder by the ass because Ryder already deal. And no one tries to take Sidoji in deal because he's the brother of Sweet, a terribly principled black Negros man who fighting use drugs on his area. From Tampani's point of view, it would be easier to simply eliminate the Dodgers in due course or kill them, you know. Big Smoke tells Carl that his cousin has arrived to town from Mexico and he's going to pick her up. CJ and Smoke travel to East Los-Santos where they encounter two members of Los-Santos Wagon gang. After a verbal interaction, Smoke kills one of the gangs and Sidoji begins running for the thicket. Do you think this was coincidence? Of course not. Under the curse of the fighting drug gangs, Big Smoke is actually kill person who Tampani asked order to kill. This is to prevent the biggest gangs from growing too large. The principle is divide and conquer. Divide those gangs and dominate them, preventing one from becoming more powerful than the others. So you would be the most powerful strange in this region. Carl goes to see Big Smoke, and the Tampani pull out his balls. And we're looking so pleased. Carl has been obtuse as usual, and Smoke informs CJ that there would be a deal between Los-Santos Vegas and San Fierro gang. And I decided to sabotage the meeting, you know. Yes. Only I, of course. While waiting for the train at Unity Station, the Vegas upon seeing Smoke and Carl try to escape on the roof of the train. And Smoke and Sidoji give chase to them on a motorcycle. I think is obviously one of Tampani operation to prevent these gangs from gaining more weapons. Big Smoke has some business to attend to. and he's going with CJ to Atrium in commercial district. Once they're inside, Big Smoke engaged in a fight with Russian mafia and CJ need to help him, and he can't even flirt with Sweet Pussy. Considering this in the Los-Santos territory and the shopping center near the ghetto was most likely also raided at Timpani's request. Timpani recruits members of the grocery gang and with them, either through to or by agreement, eliminates all gang members and pushes out rebels. Apparently, Timpani is in cahoots with Bellas. Apparently, Timpani in deal with the Bellas who are involved in drug trafficking. And obviously, the Vegas and Timpani begins gratefully trying to kill Sweet and Carl. OG Luke, now released from jail. Negros acting like cool gangster while fulfilling his request to kill so-called Freddy or Jeffrey. I don't even think it matters what his name, Freddy or Jeffrey. We learned that his Vegas guy has been fucked OG Luke ass, and now OG Luke tries to use CJ as help to make revenge. Successfully, of course, because CJ main character, there is really no hidden agenda with this character other than the fact that CJ is playing dumb and making what he is asking without asking questions. For example, why I should help OG Luke in his selfish needs. I can understand helping Big Smoke and Ryder, like it's all for the gang, but here for what? First, Carl helps OG Luke steal equipment for rap. Then he steals relics from Mad Dog Mansion, and then he kills Mad Dog producer to ruin Mad Dog business. For what? Why agree to this? Why he agreed to this? Did Mad Dog do anything to you so you ruin his business? And by the way, when Carl was stealing equipment, he should first fuck women and then steal apartments and then steal equipment. Not another way he did. It's wrong. OG Luke quits his job as a janitor and decides to return to prison. Well, because if he would not work somewhere, will come officers of police and say, "Why are you not in work? Get back to prison, you fool!" But first, he wants to throw a party. Carl attends the party but soon receives a warning about a ballistic attack on the Grove Street. By the way, police making this think that some kind of Luke should have a job, janitor, whatever else, because he would not have time for making gangster style shit. You know, that's the reason why Negroes comes to school. So they would have not much time for making criminalized things. Don't learn something interested in school, just wasting time. That's because. By the way, CJ and Sweet and group of Wall Street families gangsters engage in a shootout with the rival gang Ballas. It's worth noting that OG Luke was reading his own shitty text, which is why everyone went outside. So, if it's none of your business and doesn't involve terms or objectively criticism rather than humiliation, then don't do it. Otherwise, you will end up like OG Luke and would be laughing stock. Carl reluctantly meets with crash officers at a donut shop. Timpani informs CJ about a member of the Shadow Vegas gang who's trying to write an article about them along the way. So Timpani suggests Carl to kill them. This is the mission where Carl requests
Sounds like a fucking excuse to me.
Denise Black Wall, among other things, and then they can meet up and have sex. Carl is lucky to find dumb sluts and wolves, of course, especially crazy ones like Catalina. But let's talk about this in future.
You understand?
So that's why police officers like Donut's place with it, because in this time, like 90s past age, black populace go often to rob magazines, what I'm saying magazines, restaurants and shops. So, protect themselves, donuts restaurants will say that in nighttime they would give free donuts for police officers so they can protect donut restaurants from robbing. Robin, Batman, Black Man. CJ was informed by Timpani about deal between the Ballas and members of the Russian mafia at warehouse and ocean docks, and suggests Carl disrupt the development by killing the weapons dealer. Maybe the Ballas are supposed to arrest Timpani, you may ask, right? No! Why they should? Divide and conquer, I repeat. We can give the gangs a break and arm them. We can't give the gangs a break of killing each other for nothing, and we can give them arm, get more weapon. The next mission is conquering a gay park. After a phone call from Sweet Johnson, Karl Ivanov comes to Munition to buy a farm to kill the Grove Street family's traitor who has defected to the Ballas and joined them. I don't know how much firearms were actually used back then. As far as I know, Los Angeles is not Texas, and buying and selling guns is not easy there. Most of all, illegal. So you better tell me, because I'm not living in US. Next, the Ballas hold a funeral for Little Ferret, one of the fallen members. Sweet and CJ decided to disrupt the funeral in order to kill the leader from the Art Ballas. By order, or maybe better to say by push, of Timpani, because he saw and he stole this information to Grove Street. It's worth noting that the feud between Grove Street and the Ballas is an allusion to war with creeps and Bloods. It's two gangs in real life. There is real life gangs that spread across cities and country in all the United States. They basically operate as a full-fledged organization, similar to the Jewish. That when you move to another city, you go to your local Bloods or creeps bosses, and then they can help you assimilate in this country or city, find place to make money for bread and butter, and help you in other things in your life. As I understand, Rockstar Games firstly wanted to make colors much like blue and red, like those gangs Bloods and Creeps hold, but they decided to change it to the green and purple for security reasons, I suppose. Sweet decided to reunite all the Grove Street family sets. The gang heads to the Jefferson Motel, where the sets meet, but soon after, the eye was ambushed by the LSPD and SWAT. Again, Timpani helped turn Grove Street in. He could not care less whether he was raided out or not, by Carl, I mean, because Timpani has evidence of Sidochi, and allowing this gang to become greedy again is unacceptable. It's too dangerous for these plans. After the families are finally reunited, Sweet decided to restore justice and attack the Ballas, who by his information was raided, information that Grove Street families was reunited in Jefferson Motel, but it's not true, it was Timpani. He tells CJ to meet this during the shootout between the Grove Street families and the Ballas, but Carl is forced to meet with Caesar first, who reveals Big Smoke and Ryder's betrayal. In fact, this mess with the Ballas was orchestrated in part with Timpani's help, of course. Because eventually the cops arrive and round everyone up, Carl is taken away, even though they should have been arrested and sit in jail with Sweet. And Sweet is thrown into prison as a card in pocket Timpani to manipulate with Carl.